The great ships of the Zephyrian Empire moved through space like gliding shadows. Their hulls gleamed with a strange blue light that made them look almost alive. Inside the largest ship, High Arbiter Velthara stood before a massive window, watching the stars. Her tall, thin body was covered in robes that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were completely black, like pools of endless night. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrians had ruled over 17 star systems. They controlled dozens of different alien species, but they did not rule through fear alone. They ruled through something much more powerful: belief. Velthara smiled as she remembered their first conquest. The Morvac people had been simple farmers on a green world. When the Zephyrian ships appeared in their sky, the Morvac fell to their knees. The advanced technology looked like magic to them. Energy shields that glowed like halos, ships that floated without engines, weapons that struck like lightning from heaven. The Zephyrians told the Morvac they were gods, and the Morvac believed. Now, centuries later, Morvac slaves worked on every Zephyrian ship. They built the weapons. They cleaned the floors. They died in the mines, all while believing they served divine beings. "High Arbiter," a voice said behind her. Velthara turned to see Commander Zorak, her military leader. His armor was black metal with silver designs. "The scouts have returned from the Outer Rim." "What did they find?" Velthara asked. "A new species," Zorak said. "They call themselves humans. They have spread to several worlds beyond our borders. Their technology is primitive." Velthara's smile grew wider. "How primitive?" "They still use chemical rockets for some of their ships. Their weapons fire metal bullets. No energy shields at all." Zorak pulled up a holographic display. "They appear to be exploring, looking for new worlds to settle." The display showed images of human ships. They were ugly metal boxes compared to the elegant Zephyrian vessels. The humans wore simple spacesuits instead of flowing robes. Their faces were soft and pink, with hair on their heads. "Perfect," Velthara said. "Another species ready to kneel before their gods." Far away, on a dead world at the edge of Zephyrian space, Dr. Marcus Webb brushed dust from an ancient stone carving. He was a human scientist who studied old civilizations. His team had been digging here for 3 months, looking for clues about the aliens that once lived on this world. The carving showed strange figures with long bodies and dark eyes. They wore flowing robes and stood above smaller creatures that looked different from them. The smaller ones were on their knees. "Dr. Webb!" called his assistant, Jenny Park. "You need to see this!" Webb walked over to where Jenny was working. She had uncovered part of a wall with writing on it. The symbols were unlike anything in their database. "I ran it through the translation program," Jenny said. "The computer found some matches with other dead languages we've discovered. Look at this." She pointed to a line of symbols. "This word appears over and over. The computer thinks it means false or fake, and this one means gods or rulers from sky." Webb felt his heart beat faster. "False gods? That's what it looks like. And doctor, there's more. This section talks about ships that glow with blue light, weapons that strike like lightning. Sound familiar?" Webb nodded slowly. They had all heard stories about the Zephyrian Empire. Every human colony knew to stay away from their space. The Zephyrians claimed to be gods. They ruled over many alien species who worshipped them. "Jenny, keep digging. I need to send a message to Earth immediately." Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Velthara was making plans. She stood in a great hall filled with her followers. They were all tall and thin like her, with the same black eyes and glowing robes. On the walls hung pictures of their past victories, alien creatures bowing down, cities being built in honor of Zephyrian gods, temples filled with offerings. The humans have 12 colony worlds, Velthera announced to the gathering. Their biggest settlement is called New Geneva. It has 2 million humans living on farms and in small cities. Shall we begin with the standard approach, High Arbiter? Asked Zorak. Yes. We will appear to them as we appeared to all the others. I will descend from the heavens in glory. I will speak to them in their own language. I will show them miracles that prove my divine power. The assembled Zephyrians made sounds of approval. This was how it always worked. No species had ever resisted, once they saw Zephyrian technology in action. What about their military? Asked another commander. Zorak laughed. What military? They have a few patrol ships with metal weapons. Nothing that could scratch our shields. On New Geneva, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her ship, the Indomitable. It was humanity's newest and largest warship. Chen was proud of it. The ship was 2 kilometers long, built with the strongest armor humans could make. Its weapons were designed by the best military minds on Earth. But Chen was not at New Geneva to fight. She was delivering supplies to the colony and checking on their defenses. Space was big and dangerous, and colonies needed protection. Captain, her communications officer called out, we're getting a strange message from Dr. Webb's team. He says it's urgent. Put it through. Dr. Webb's face appeared on the main screen. He looked worried and excited at the same time. Captain Chen, we've made a discovery. The Zephyrians might not be what they claim to be. These ruins suggest they're not gods at all. They're just another alien species using technology to fool primitive cultures. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Are you certain? Not completely, but the evidence is strong. Captain, if I'm right, then every species in Zephyrian space is living a lie. They're slaves who think they're serving gods. I'll pass this information to Earth Command immediately. There's more, Webb said. According to what we've found, the Zephyrians always follow the same pattern. They appear to a new species. They demonstrate their power. They demand worship. And if the species refuses, what happens? The ruins tell the story. This world was once home to millions of people. Now it's dead rock. On the Zephyrian ship, a young Morvac named Crixtal was cleaning the engine room. His people had served the gods for so long that most had forgotten what freedom looked like. But Crixtal was different. He asked questions. He wondered why gods needed engines and weapons and slaves. As he worked, he listened to the gods talking. They did not know he understood their language. They thought all Morvac were too stupid to learn. But Crixtal had learned, and what he heard made his blood run cold. They were planning to attack the humans, not because the humans had done anything wrong, but because the humans existed and did not worship Zephyrian gods. Crixtal thought about the human ships he had, seen in the computer files. They looked different from the ships of species that served the gods. They looked dangerous. For the first time in his life, Crixtal felt something he had never felt before. Hope. The Zephyrian fleet began moving toward human space. 12 massive ships, each one carrying weapons that could destroy cities. In their wake followed transport ships full of slaves and supplies. They expected this to be like all their other conquests. Quick, easy, final. They had no idea what humans were really like. They were about to learn. The morning sky over New Geneva was clear and blue. Farmers were working in their fields. Children played in the streets of the main city. Nobody expected their world to change forever that day. Then the ships appeared. 12 massive vessels dropped out of hyperspace just outside the planet's atmosphere. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Blue light danced along their hulls like living electricity. They moved without making any sound, gliding through space like enormous fish swimming through water. Governor Patricia Walsh stood in the colony's command center, watching the displays with growing fear. She had been in charge of New Geneva for 5 years. She had dealt with meteor strikes, equipment failures, and supply shortages, but nothing had prepared her for this. Ma'am, her communications officer said, they're sending a signal. What kind of signal? It's in perfect English, and German, and Mandarin, and every other human language in our database, all at the same time. The main screen flickered, then filled with an image that made everyone in the room step backward. A tall figure in flowing robes appeared before them. Her eyes were pools of pure darkness. Light seemed to shine from her skin. When she spoke, her voice came from everywhere at once. People of this world, the figure said, I am Velthara, mother of stars, keeper of the sacred light. I have traveled across the galaxy to find you. Your species has been chosen for a great honor. Governor Walsh found her voice. What are you? Velthara smiled. I am what your kind has always sought. I am divine. I am the answer to your prayers, even those you have not yet spoken. On her flagship, Velthara was pleased with the human reaction. She could see the fear and wonder on their faces through her monitoring systems. The holographic projection made her appear to be standing right in their command center. Her voice was being broadcast to every communication device on the planet. This was going exactly as planned. I offer you enlightenment, she continued. Serve me faithfully and your people will know peace and prosperity beyond imagination. Your technology will advance. Your sick will be healed. Your short lives will be extended. Governor Walsh was trying to think clearly, but the aliens' presence was overwhelming. The technology was far beyond anything humans possessed. If these beings were hostile, there was nothing the colony could do to stop them. What do you want from us? She asked. Only what is proper, Velthara replied. Recognition of my divine nature. Worship. Tribute. In return, I will guide your species to heights you cannot imagine. Deep in space, Captain Chen received the emergency transmission from New Geneva. She was still 2 days away at maximum speed, but she ordered her ship to push the engines even harder. Captain, her science officer reported, we're analyzing the alien broadcasts. The energy signatures are consistent with advanced holographic projection, and the language translation is too perfect. What do you mean? No natural species could learn every human language that quickly. They must have been studying us for a long time. This contact isn't random, it's planned. Chen thought about Dr. Webb's discovery. False gods who used technology to fool primitive species. Continue monitoring and send all data to Dr. Webb's team immediately. On New Geneva, word of the alien contact spread quickly. Some humans were afraid. Others were excited. A few were suspicious. Dr. Sarah Kim was one of the suspicious ones. She worked at the colony's research station, studying plant genetics, but she also had a degree in comparative religion from Earth University. She watched the aliens broadcast with growing doubt. The clothing is wrong, she told her colleagues. Look at those robes. They're designed to impress primitive cultures. All flowing fabric and glowing elements. Real advanced beings wouldn't need such theatrical displays. Maybe they're just trying to make us comfortable, suggested Dr. Rodriguez. Or maybe they're trying to fool us, Kim replied. Think about it. They appear just close enough to match our religious expectations, but different enough to seem alien. It's too convenient. Her words spread through the research community. Scientists began asking questions. They analyzed the alien ships with their telescopes. They studied the energy readings. They compared the contact to historical accounts of first meetings between advanced and primitive human cultures. Meanwhile, Governor Walsh was meeting with her council. The pressure was enormous. 12 massive alien ships hung over their world like a threat. The beings inside claimed to be gods and demanded worship. We need to buy time, she said. Captain Chen's ship will be here in 2 days. Until then, we stall. How do we stall gods? Asked her military advisor. We tell them we need time to prepare proper ceremonies. Every human culture has elaborate religious rituals. They should understand that. The council agreed. Walsh opened a channel to the alien ships. Great Velthara, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. We are honored by your presence, but we are a simple people. We need time to prepare proper worship ceremonies. Our traditions require specific rituals when meeting divine beings. On her ship, Velthara felt a flash of annoyance. This was taking longer than usual. Most species submitted immediately when faced with superior power, but the human leader seemed to be thinking too much. How much time do you require? She asked. 3 days, Walsh replied. We must gather representatives from all our settlements. We must prepare offerings worthy of your glory. Velthara considered this. 3 days was longer than she liked, but it would give her time to study the humans more carefully. Every species had different weaknesses. The key was finding the right pressure points. Very well, she said. 3 days. But do not test my patience further. In the Zephyrian engine rooms, Crixtal was working frantically. He had managed to access the ship's communication system during his cleaning duties. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, sending a coded message to the human colony. The message was simple but important. The gods are false. They use technology to fool you. Their weapons have limits. Their shields can be broken. Do not believe. Do not submit. He sent the message, then quickly covered his tracks. If the Zephyrians discovered what he had done, they would kill him slowly. But he had to try. For the first time in centuries, someone might be able to stand up to the false gods. Dr. Kim received the message an hour later. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Someone inside the alien ships was trying to help them. Someone who called the gods false. She immediately contacted Governor Walsh. Ma'am, we just received a transmission from inside the alien fleet. Someone is warning us that they're not really gods. Walsh felt a surge of hope mixed with fear. Can we verify this? I'm working on it. But Governor, there's something else. Our deep space sensors have detected another ship approaching the system. It's human. Captain Chen? Yes, ma'am. The Indomitable will arrive in 36 hours. Walsh allowed herself a small smile. The Indomitable was the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. If anyone could face these false gods, it was Captain Chen and her crew. On the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Zorak was growing impatient. High Arbiter, the humans are taking too long. Perhaps we should demonstrate our power more directly. Velthara nodded. You're right. Choose an empty area near their main city, something visible but not immediately lethal. Show them what happens to those who displease gods. Zorak smiled coldly. With pleasure. An hour later, a beam of blue energy lanced down from the alien ships. It struck an empty field 5 kilometers from New Geneva's main city. The ground exploded upward, then collapsed into a perfect crater, shaped like the Zephyrian Empire's symbol. The message was clear: worship or face destruction. But instead of terror, many humans felt anger. The aliens had just threatened their home, their children, their future. Dr. Kim stood on a hill overlooking the crater and made a decision. They want to be gods, she said to herself. Then they're going to learn what happens when gods pick. A fight with humans. She opened her communicator and sent a message to every human settlement in the system. The aliens are not gods. They're bullies with fancy weapons. Captain Chen is coming. Hold the line. Across New Geneva, humans began to prepare, not for worship, but for war. In space, the Indomitable pushed its engines to the breaking point, racing toward a confrontation that would change the galaxy forever. The false gods were about to meet humanity, and humanity was very, very angry. The second day of occupation began with Velthara's patience wearing thin. She stood in her command center, watching reports from the human colony below. Instead of building temples or gathering for worship, the humans were having meetings. Lots of meetings. High Arbiter, reported her intelligence officer. The humans claim they are preparing ceremonies, but our sensors detect unusual activity. They are moving equipment and people in patterns we don't understand. Velthara's black eyes narrowed. What kind of patterns? They appear to be evacuating non-essential personnel from the main city. They have also been sending encrypted messages to their other colonies. Encrypted? Velthara's voice carried a dangerous edge. Why would worshippers need to hide their words from their gods? On New Geneva, Governor Walsh was indeed busy, but not with worship preparations. She was coordinating the largest evacuation in the colony's history while trying to maintain the appearance of religious preparation. How many people have we moved? She asked her deputy. 80% of the children and elderly are now in the underground shelters, came the reply. The outer settlements have been evacuated completely. We're telling the aliens it's to gather everyone for a grand ceremony. Dr. Kim rushed into the command center carrying a data pad. Governor, I've been analyzing the crater they made yesterday. The energy signature is powerful, but it's not unlimited. Their weapons have a recharge time of approximately 4 minutes between maximum power shots. 4 minutes? Walsh felt a spark of hope. That's a significant gap. There's more. The mysterious transmission from inside their fleet has been sending us technical data. Whoever it is knows their weapons systems intimately. Inside the Zephyrian fleet, Crixtal was taking enormous risks. During his maintenance duties, he had accessed multiple ship systems. Each time he found new information, he transmitted it to the humans below. The false god's shields were powerful, but had a frequency that could be disrupted. Their weapons were devastating, but slow to recharge. Most importantly, their ships were not designed for real combat. They were built to intimidate primitive species, not fight an actual war. Crixtal's own people, the Morvac, had never fought back because they believed resistance was impossible. But the humans were different. They asked questions. They analyzed problems. They looked for weaknesses. For the first time in 3 centuries, Crixtal allowed himself to dream of freedom. Velthara decided it was time to take direct action. She transported herself down to the planet's surface, appearing in the center of New Geneva in a brilliant flash of light. Her arrival was calculated to inspire maximum awe. Instead, she found herself surrounded by humans who looked more curious than afraid. "People of New Geneva," she announced, her voice amplified by hidden technology. "I have come among you to receive your worship personally. Kneel before your goddess and receive my blessing." A small crowd had gathered around her. But instead of falling to their knees, they stood and watched. Some were even taking notes. A young girl, no more than 8 years old, stepped forward. Her mother tried to hold her back, but the child was too quick. "Excuse me, miss," the girl said politely. "If you're really a god, why do you need such big guns on your spaceships?" The question hung in the air like a bomb. Velthara stared at the child, her mind racing. In 3,000 years of conquest, no one had ever asked such a direct, innocent question. The weapons are to protect the faithful from evil forces," she managed. "But if you're all-powerful, why do you need protection?" the girl continued. "My Sunday school teacher says real gods don't need weapons." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The child's simple logic was devastating. If these beings were truly divine, why did they carry weapons? Why did they need technology? Why did they demand worship instead of simply blessing humanity? Velthara felt panic rising in her chest. This was not going according to plan. "Silence," she commanded, her voice booming with artificial amplification. "I am Velthara, Mother of Stars. You will show respect." The crowd took a step back, but they did not kneel. Instead, an elderly man spoke up. "Ma'am, with all due respect, my granddaughter asked a fair question. In my 70 years, I've never seen any god who got angry when children asked honest questions." More murmurs of agreement. The crowd was growing larger as news of the confrontation spread. Instead of awe and worship, Velthara saw skepticism and defiance. She had encountered stubborn species before, but this was different. These humans were not afraid of her technology. They were studying it, questioning it, analyzing it like scientists, instead of cowering like primitives. "You test my patience too far," Velthara declared. "Perhaps you need a more direct demonstration of divine power." She activated her personal weapon system, causing energy to crackle around her hands like lightning. The display was impressive, designed to make her look like a storm goddess. But instead of terror, she heard a voice from the crowd. "Neat trick! Is that some kind of plasma field generator?" The voice belonged to Dr. Kim, who was studying Velthara, with obvious scientific interest. "The energy pattern suggests contained electromagnetic disturbance. Very advanced, but definitely technology, not magic." Velthara was losing control of the situation completely. Her divine presence was being dissected like a laboratory experiment. "You dare analyze your goddess?" she shrieked. "Well, yes," Dr. Kim replied calmly. "That's what humans do. We ask questions. We study things. We learn. If you really were divine, you'd probably encourage that instead of getting angry about it." The crowd began to laugh. Not in mockery, but in understanding. These aliens were just bullies with fancy equipment. They demanded worship because they couldn't earn respect. Velthara transported herself back to her ship in a fury. Her grand demonstration had become a disaster. Instead of converting the humans, she had only strengthened their resistance. "Commander Zorak," she called as soon as she materialized on the bridge. "Prepare the orbital bombardment systems. These humans need to learn respect through pain." Zorak smiled coldly. "With pleasure, High Arbiter. Which targets?" "Begin with their military installations, then their power plants, then their farms. We will show them what happens to species that refuse to bow before gods." But before the weapons could fire, a new alarm sounded throughout the ship. "High Arbiter," the sensor operator called out. "We have a new contact dropping out of hyperspace. It's huge." On the main display, a ship appeared that made every Zephyrian on the bridge stop breathing. It was massive, nearly twice the size of their largest vessel. Its hull was dark metal covered in weapon ports. It moved with the steady confidence of a predator approaching prey. "What is that?" Velthara whispered. "It's human," the sensor operator replied, his voice filled with disbelief. "It's reading as human design." The human ship established an open communication channel. A woman's voice, calm and professional, filled the Zephyrian bridge. "Alien vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the UEN Indomitable. You are in violation of the Colonial Protection Treaty. You have threatened human civilians and damaged human property. You have 30 minutes to release our people and depart this system peacefully." Velthara stared at the image of the human warship. It looked nothing like the primitive vessels her scouts had reported. This ship was built for war by people who understood war very, very well. "Impossible," she breathed. "The intelligence reports said they were primitive." "The reports were wrong," Zorak said grimly. "High Arbiter, this changes everything." On New Geneva, humans gathered around communication devices to listen to their ship's captain. When they heard Chen's voice, calm and confident in the face of alien gods, they cheered. The little girl who had asked about weapons tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, I think our ship has bigger guns than theirs." Her mother looked up at the dots of light in the sky, 12 alien vessels surrounding one human ship. "I think you're right, sweetheart," she said with a smile. "I think you're absolutely right." In the depths of the Zephyrian fleet, Crixtal felt his heart soar. The humans had not come to worship or negotiate. They had come to fight. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone was about to stand up to the false gods, and the false gods were about to learn what happened when they picked a fight with humanity. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the tactical display. 12 alien ships surrounded her vessel in what they probably thought was an intimidating formation. She had seen similar tactics in training simulations. A show of numbers meant to overwhelm an opponent psychologically. It might have worked against a merchant vessel or civilian transport. Against a human dreadnought designed specifically for this type of encounter, it was simply target practice. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "enemy vessels are moving to surround us. Their energy signatures suggest advanced shielding and directed energy weapons. Analysis of their weapon systems. Powerful but slow cycling. Our sensors detect a roughly 4-minute recharge time between maximum power discharges. Their ships appear optimized for intimidation rather than sustained combat." Chen nodded. Dr. Webb's intelligence had been accurate. These were not warships built by a military culture. They were tools of oppression designed to cow primitive civilizations. Unfortunately for them, humans were neither primitive nor easily cowed. "Communications. Open a channel to the lead alien vessel." "Channel open, Captain." Chen's voice carried across space with calm authority. "This is Captain Chen of the United Earth Navy vessel Indomitable. I am ordering you to release the human civilians you are threatening and depart this system immediately." On the Zephyrian flagship, Velthara struggled to regain her composure. The human ship was larger than expected, but it was still just one vessel against 12. Numbers had to count for something. "Human vessel," she replied, trying to project divine authority. "I am Velthara, Mother of Stars, Keeper of the Sacred Light. Your people have been chosen for the honor of serving the divine. You will stand down and acknowledge my godhood." There was a pause. Then Captain Chen's voice returned, and Velthara could hear something new in it. Amusement. "Ma'am, I'm going to give you some free advice. The next time you want to convince someone you're a god, don't do it while pointing weapons at their children. It really undermines the whole benevolent deity image." Across the Zephyrian bridge, officers exchanged worried glances. The human was mocking their high arbiter, speaking to a goddess as if she were just another alien with delusions of grandeur. "You dare insult a divine being?" Velthara shrieked. "I'm not insulting anyone," Chen replied calmly. "I'm just pointing out that real gods generally don't need to threaten people to get respect. You have 28 minutes to leave peacefully." Velthara's rage overcame her tactical judgment. "Commander Zorak, all ships prepare to fire. Show this arrogant human what happens when mortals challenge gods." The Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation. Their weapons began charging with visible energy buildup. On New Geneva below, humans watched the light show in their sky with a mixture of fear and anticipation. But in the underground shelters and hidden bunkers, children pressed their faces to viewing screens and whispered to each other, "Our ship is bigger than theirs." Captain Chen watched the enemy formation with professional interest. "Tactical threat assessment. 12 vessels, Captain. Estimated weapons yield suggests they could severely damage or destroy a standard frigate with concentrated fire. However, their positioning is poor for coordinated attack. They're spread too thin trying to surround us. And against our shields? Their weapons appear designed for planetary bombardment rather than ship-to-ship combat. We should be able to absorb their initial salvo with minimal damage." Chen smiled grimly. "Weapons, prepare to return fire. Target their lead vessel first. Let's see how godlike they feel after taking a few rounds from human railguns." The first shot came from the Zephyrian flagship. A brilliant beam of blue energy lanced across space and struck the Indomitable's forward shields. The human ship shuddered slightly as energy played across its defensive barriers. "Damage report," Chen called. "Shields down to 96%, Captain." "No hull damage." Chen's smile widened. "Their turn's over. Weapons, you are cleared too. Engage." The Indomitable's response was devastating in its simplicity. No flashy energy beams or theatrical light shows. Just chunks of tungsten accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed by electromagnetic railguns. The first projectile struck the Zephyrian flagship's shields and punched through them like they weren't there. The second and third rounds tore into the ship's hull, venting atmosphere and debris into space. On the Zephyrian bridge, emergency alarms screamed as the ship bucked under impact. Velthara was thrown to the floor as her vessel's artificial gravity fluctuated. "Impossible!" she gasped. "Our shields are divine protection." "High Arbiter," Commander Zorak reported grimly. "Our shields have failed. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Engineering reports major damage to the power distribution network." The human ship had barely moved. It hung in space like a predator, already turning to engage the next target. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," Velthara commanded. "Overwhelm their defenses." The remaining 11 Zephyrian ships opened fire simultaneously. Beams of energy converged on the Indomitable from multiple directions. For a moment, the human ship disappeared in a blaze of light as dozens of weapons struck its shields. When the light faded, the Indomitable emerged unscathed. "Shields down to 87%, the tactical officer reported. "No damage." Captain Chen shook her head. "Is that the best they can do? Weapons, spread fire across all enemy vessels. Let's end this quickly." The human Dreadnought's weapon systems came alive. Rail guns, plasma cannons, and missile launchers engaged targets across the enemy formation. The Zephyrians had spread themselves too thin trying to surround the human ship. Now they were being picked off one by concentrated fire. The second Zephyrian vessel exploded in a brilliant fireball as a plasma torpedo breached its reactor. The third ship tried to run, only to be caught by a railgun shot that severed its engine section. In the depths of the Zephyrian fleet, Krixtal watched through a maintenance viewport as his oppressors' ships were systematically destroyed. Each explosion lit up space like a new star. Each destroyed vessel represented centuries of tyranny coming to an end. Around him, other Morvac slaves stopped their work to stare. They had never seen the gods lose a fight. They had never imagined the gods could lose a fight. "The humans," one of them whispered. "They're winning." "They're not just winning," Krixtal replied, his voice filled with wonder. "They're making it look easy." On the human ship, Captain Chen was coordinating the battle with calm efficiency. Her crew worked with the precision of professionals who had trained their entire careers for this moment. "Captain," her communications officer called, "we're receiving surrender signals from 3 enemy vessels." "Accept their surrender." "Order them to stand down and prepare to be boarded." "And the others?" Chen looked at the tactical display. 5 Zephyrian ships remained operational, but they were scattered and demoralized. Their formation had collapsed. Their weapons had proven ineffective. Their shields couldn't stop human firepower. "The others can choose to surrender or be destroyed," she said simply. "But this ends now." High Arbiter Velthara huddled on her damaged bridge, watching her divine fleet being torn apart by a single human warship. Everything she believed about Zephyrian superiority was crumbling around her. "High Arbiter," Zorak said quietly, "we must retreat. Our weapons cannot penetrate their defenses." "No!" Velthara screamed. "I am a goddess. I cannot be defeated by mortals!" But even as she spoke, another Zephyrian ship exploded under human fire. Then another. "High Arbiter," the helmsman called out. "The humans are hailing us directly." Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge. "Zephyrian Commander, this is your final warning. Surrender now or be destroyed. You have proven you are not gods. Now prove you're not fools." Velthara stared at the human ship on her screen. It was barely damaged, despite facing 12 opponents. Its weapons continued to fire with mechanical precision, destroying everything they touched. For the first time in 3,000 years, a Zephyrian High Arbiter felt something she had never experienced before. Fear. Real. Genuine. Absolute fear. The gods were losing, and the humans were just getting started. High Arbiter Velthara made her final decision with the desperate fury of a cornered animal. If she could not win through superior firepower, she would win through sacrifice. "All ships," she commanded over the fleet communications. "Follow my lead. We ram the human vessel. If we cannot defeat them with weapons, we will destroy them with our bodies, for the glory of the divine." But her call met only silence. Of the 12 ships that had begun the battle, only 4 remained functional, and their crews had lost all faith in their goddess. "High Arbiter," Commander Zorak said quietly, "the remaining ships are requesting permission to surrender." "No," Velthara shrieked. "I forbid it! We are gods! We do not surrender to mortals!" "With respect, High Arbiter," Zorak replied, "we are not gods. We never were. And today, everyone in the galaxy is going to know it." Captain Chen watched the alien formation fall apart completely. 3 ships had already transmitted surrender codes. The 4th was limping away on damaged engines. Only the flagship remained in any position to fight. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "the lead alien vessel is changing course. They're heading directly for us at maximum speed." Chen nodded grimly. "A ramming attack. The last resort of a desperate commander. Time to intercept? 2 minutes at their current speed. More than enough time. Target their engines with precision fire. Disable but don't destroy." The Indomitable's weapons spoke with surgical accuracy. Plasma bolts struck the Zephyrian flagship's engine compartments, vaporizing drive units and leaving the ship drifting helplessly in space. "Ramming threat eliminated," the tactical officer confirmed. "Excellent. Launch boarding shuttles. Full. Marine complement. I want that ship secured and its crew taken into custody." On the crippled Zephyrian flagship, Velthara watched human shuttles approach her vessel. Each shuttle was small but heavily armored. They attached to her ship's hull like predatory insects, cutting through the armor with industrial lasers. "High Arbiter," Zorak said. "Human soldiers are boarding the ship. They'll reach the bridge in minutes." Velthara laughed bitterly. "Let them come. When they see me, they will understand they have captured a goddess. They will fall to their knees in worship." The bridge doors exploded inward. Human Marines poured through the opening, their weapons trained on every Zephyrian in sight. They wore full combat armor that made them look like mechanical monsters. "Everyone on the ground now," the lead Marine barked. The Zephyrian officers immediately complied, dropping to their knees with their hands visible. All except Velthara. She stood in the center of her ruined bridge, her robes still glowing with artificial light. Her black eyes burned with fanatic fury. "I am Velthara, Mother of Stars," she declared. "I am divine. You will kneel before your goddess." The Marine commander pulled off his helmet, revealing a young human face marked with old scars. He looked at Velthara with the weary expression of a soldier who had seen too much. "Lady, I've heard that speech from a dozen different warlords on a dozen different worlds. You're not divine. You're just another bully with fancy equipment who picked the wrong fight." "Impossible!" Velthara raged. "I am a goddess. My people have worshipped me for 3,000 years. Your people," the Marine replied calmly, "are about to be free." In the depths of the ship, Crixtal and the other slaves heard the sound of human boots marching through the corridors. When the Marines reached the slave quarters, they found hundreds of aliens from dozens of different species, all cowering in fear. "It's okay," the Marine lieutenant said gently. "We're here to help. You're safe now." Crixtal looked up at the human soldier. Are you really here to free us?" "That's the plan," the Marine replied. "Can you help us communicate with the others? We need to get everyone medical attention. And start figuring out how to get you all home." Crixtal began to cry. After 3 centuries of slavery, after 300 years of believing freedom was impossible, humans had arrived and made it look easy. The news of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world controlled by the Zephyrian Empire, slaves and subjects received the same message. The gods had been defeated by humans. The divine fleet had been destroyed. The High Arbiter had been captured. On Morvac Prime, the Zephyrian overseers found themselves facing riots as their former slaves rose up in rebellion. On the mining worlds of the Keth system, alien workers seized control of the facilities. Across 17 star systems, the greatest empire in known space began to crumble. Captain Chen stood in the Indomitable's detention center, looking through reinforced glass at her prisoner. Velthara sat on a simple metal bench, her glowing robes replaced with a standard detention uniform. Without the theatrical lighting and holographic enhancement, she looked like what she had always been, just another alien. "You know," Chen said conversationally, "I've been wondering about something. What made you think you could convince humans to worship you?" Velthara glared at her with undimmed hatred. "Your species is young and primitive. All young species seek gods to guide them." "Maybe some do," Chen agreed. "But humans stopped needing gods a long time ago. We learned to think for ourselves, to question authority, to demand proof instead of accepting claims." "Your people will suffer without divine guidance," Chen smiled. "My people will be fine. We've been taking care of ourselves for thousands of years. The question is, what happens to your people now?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, the galaxy knows the truth now. Every species you enslaved, every world you conquered, every person you convinced to worship you, they all know you're frauds. Your empire is falling apart as we speak." Velthara's face went pale. "Impossible. My people rule 17 systems." "Ruled," Chen corrected. "Past tense. By the time we get you back to Earth for trial, there probably won't be a Zephyrian empire left to speak of." 3 months later, Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the ruins of a Zephyrian temple on New Geneva. The colonists had torn it down the day after the battle, using the materials to build a monument to human courage instead. "Dr. Webb?" a voice called. He turned to see Krikstal approaching. The former slave was now serving as a translator and cultural liaison, helping the liberated species adjust to freedom. "How are the refugee settlements coming along?" Webb asked. "Better than expected," Krikstal replied. "Humans are different than we expected. You share your technology freely. You offer help without demanding worship in return. Many of my people are asking if they can join your colonies permanently." Webb nodded. "Of course, there's plenty of room in human space for anyone who wants to live free." Krikstal looked up at the sky, where human and alien ships worked together to distribute supplies to refugee camps. "Doctor, can I ask you something?" "Sure. What makes humans so different? Why were you able to see through the Zephyrian lies when so many other species could not?" Webb thought about it for a moment. "I think it's because we learned early that the universe is big and dangerous and doesn't care about us. We never needed gods because we had to learn to rely on ourselves. Every human child grows up hearing stories about questioning authority, thinking for yourself, and never accepting something just because someone tells you it's true. Even when someone claims to be divine? Especially then," Webb smiled. "Real. Gods don't need to threaten people to get respect." High Arbiter Velthara sat in a human courtroom on Earth, listening to the charges being read against her. War crimes, slavery, mass murder, fraud on a galactic scale. Her lawyer, a human appointed by the court, leaned over to whisper, "The prosecution is offering a plea deal, life imprisonment instead of execution. Given the evidence against you, I strongly recommend you take it." Velthara looked around the courtroom. It was filled with representatives from dozens of species, former slaves who had come to watch their oppressor face justice. In the gallery, she could see Krikstal and hundreds of others whose lives she had destroyed. "What will happen to my people?" she asked quietly. "The ones who surrendered peacefully are being tried separately. Most will probably face exile rather than execution. The Zephyrian worlds themselves will likely be placed under human protection until they can form stable governments." Velthara closed her eyes. 3,000 years of empire, ended by a single human warship and a species that refused to bow. "I accept the plea," she whispered. As she was led away in chains, Velthara heard a child's voice from the gallery. "Mommy." Why did she think she was a god? The child's mother replied, "Because nobody ever taught her that real gods don't need armies, sweetheart. Real gods don't need to hurt people to prove they're special." Years later, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of a new ship, watching as the first joint human Morvac colony ship headed out to settle a fresh world. The galaxy was different now. Free species worked together instead of cowering under false gods. Trade flourished where once there had been only tribute and slavery. "Captain," her communications officer called, "priority message from Earth Command." "Put it through." "Captain Chen, you have new orders. Long-range scouts have detected another empire claiming divine status in the Andromeda sector. Similar technology, patterns to the Zephyrians." Chen smiled grimly. "How many ships this time?" 27. They call themselves the Eternal Celestial Dynasty. Understood. Set course for Andromeda, and send a message to the claimed gods. What should the message say, Captain?